Hello, everyone. I'm Bra Mithra. I'm once again joined by Jay. Hello, Jay.
Hello, bro.
So, this was super fast in comparison to last month.
Yeah, that beta took a while last month to get.
yeah. This is super fast. So, we've gotten to see all the new shop stuff already. In fact, pretty good chance you might be able to actually still buy some of the stuff that was listed for this May shop. Some of it's still
Yeah,
for
both
sale.
the gameplay items are still for sale as of this recording.
Yeah, as of this recording, you might be able to still go and grab stuff. So, there was lots of interesting things added. First, we'll talk about the fact there was a Parasite Queen T-shirt. So that's really cool. If you were going to Gen Con, the update mentioned wearing your Kingdom Death crested shirts to get special something. I don't know. Swag, something swag. Something at Gen Con. So make sure if you get yourself a crested shirt. They also did Prince again this month, which was Lantern. No. What are they? Illuminated Lady. That's it. And then they did a severe injury chart.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. It's a pretty cool idea. It looks to be the exact ones that were used at Gen Con last year, with including
Yes,
the little red dots to indicate how much bleed you get, which is a great idea.
it is. There's also a print of the new mole sculpt from Danny Cruz.
Yes, as well as the mole sculpt,
True.
the xenomorph tribute.
Yeah,
Very
it's
cool
based on the
looking.
works of H.R. Geiger, according to Poots.
Yes. Oh, definitely 100% is. Definitely looks so cool. Then we had the pre-order for the Blood Mage, which we talked about last month, which was the white speaker, which is a 2x2 monster. You could pre-order it. So that'd be the plastic pre-order, just like there was the Black Cat pre-order. And then there was the two gameplay releases, which are the Great Game Hunter Bravado was the beta, another male, which is cool, and it's a Great Game Hunter. I think it's the first Great Game Hunter we've had in a super long time.
A bravado type game hunter is the most cocksure of the class variants, wandering solo in the unknown with more primitive hunting weapons, sometimes even joining survivors on their quest for resources to prove to other members of their house that they are the best. Physically strong with vast education and experience to back them up, they delight in felling prey alone that would normally take a great game hunter and their retinue of slaves to manage.
Well, we're gonna roll right into from that lore that you just heard. We're gonna roll into how do you get this item, Jay?
You find it on a great game hunter, bro.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, he may have swaggered too close to the sun.
Yes, indeed. Too much bravado.
A little bit.
So, yes, you get this from the Hunt Event 78, which is the dead Great Game Hunter.
So that's some environmental storytelling right there.
Yes. Instead of investigating, and what can you get from investigating, Jay?
You can get blown up, you can get absolutely nothing, or you can get a frenzy drink.
Yeah, you could get a frenzy drink from this hunt event. We'll talk about frenzy drink later. So, this is the second crossbow we've seen now. It is the Great Game Crossbow. It's
Yes.
a weapon ranged crossbow finesse. It's got 2 speed, 6 plus accuracy, 5 strength with a left red and a right blue. It is the load keyword, which we saw on the Survivors of Death, which is you just have to spend an action first to put a token on it, and then to activate it, you have to spend the token and an activation in order to use it. Range 5. While this is equipped, which just means while it's in your gear grid, doesn't mean when you're attacking with it, it just means while this is in your gear grid, you are guardless. And then guardless is a thing that is now just in the game.
Not dodge, cancel, block, nothing.
Yeah, you may not. A survivor with guardless may not dodge, block, deflect, or ignore hits.
Your evasion still counts, but that's it.
Correct. And then
Don't take this to a fight where the monster has keen.
yeah. But you never know, right? Because you're going to get it on the hunt. So
True. You might just get it and then die.
yeah, yeah, kind of like what happened. And then the affinity is when you make both the left red and the right blue. Is when you attack a level 3+ monster with this, it gains Deadly 2 for the attack. This is interesting.
It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, with this was a very when we saw this listed on the store, we only saw the abilities, right? And if you would have had to made this,
cost, quote unquote.
since this is a free weapon, essentially, this is fine. This is actually perfectly scaled, in my opinion, for a free weapon. In fact, its ability, which initially seemed awkward, where it would be when you attack a level 3 monster with this, it gains Deadly 2 for the attack. This would be like, why would you either build this really early because it's cheap, or you build it only when you're hunting level 3 monsters. But now, since the fact it's free and you get it randomly, literally randomly, you can't tutor Dead Game Hunter like you can. Some hunt events can be tutored, not this one so far. You can't really gauge when you're going to get this. So this ability they
made an attempt to make it useful at all stages of the game.
At any stage, yeah. In the beginning, when you're not attacking it, then it's nice because it's 6 accuracy, 5 strength. And then if you do get it late in the game, it's not terrible because it gets Deadly 2. This is absolutely perfect. Nothing needs to change about this. It will probably be like Zelda's Obsession or, the Fish of Abundance that you got from one of those hunt events. This is great. This is actually great. I think this doesn't really even need to be in testing very much. Perfect. Really good. This is great storytelling.
What was that about a frenzy drink?
Yeah, what was that about a frenzy drink? So, let's talk about the new Spooter IR. Do you have the lore pulled up, Jay?
I do. I have the lore for Indomitable Survivor, Poison Partisan Ritika. Unsteady on its remaining legs, the monster's body sunk low against the stone-faced ground. A greasy miasma emanated from the monster's battered body, choking her lungs and burning her eyes. Legions of newly hatched spiderlings converged voraciously on the phenomenal call of its predecessor. Their coarse legs scrabbled over Ritika's body, talons slicing her flesh in their fevered rush. The monster hesitated, rising above her ravenous brood. Ritika fastened to its spindly fingers. Throwing her weight over the monster's swaying body, she hacked the exposed joint, toppling the creature for a final time. The swarming brood descended on the corpse, devouring its broken body. One by one, she smashed and stabbed the spiderlings until the skittering dark grew still. With her last for strength, she yanked the florid organ from its corpse, retching at its oily stench. It's another little vignette, as all the Indomitable Survivors have.
Yep. So the resource that she plucks out is the aggregate silk gland.
Yes.
That's the IR.
Perfect organ.
Yeah.
It's not silk for some reason.
Yeah, I guess probably worried about being perfect silk, but I mean, if anything's going to have silk, it's going to be Spooter anyway, but, yeah, it's not silk. Interesting. Should be, maybe, but still, IR. Interesting. Perfect organ.
Yeah, and when you get it, you get the Poison Partisan pattern card.
Correct, which is made with the IR, 1 iron, 1 venom sac, which is a 1 of, and the 3 bone.
Which is fairly cheap, all things considered.
Yes, I agree. All things considered, that's a pretty... I mean, it's insanely cheap, because right now it's a guarantee.
Correct.
You're always getting the Silk Gland now. It's the only IR that Scooter has.
Or possibly Badar,
yes.
Whatever comes first.
So, let's do our typical spiel about IRs. So remember, when you look at an IR, you have to look at the monster that it's coming from. This is coming from a Spooter, meaning that it's not meant to be combined with other Node 2 monsters. It's evaluated in a vacuum into which you're using Spooter as your Node 2. So, just get that out of the way. With the Poison Partisan here, this is a super interesting weapon.
This one's weird. It's a weapon, melee, spear, amber, poisonous, reach 2 and slow, 1 speed, 6+ accuracy, and 9 strength. It's got a green up and a green left. On arrival, add 3 spiderlings to unoccupied spaces along the board edge. Its affinity ability is activated with 1 red and 1 green affinity. Harvest poison. When you kill a spiderling with this weapon, your next attack with this weapon gains hamper accuracy. What is hamper? Hamper's new.
Hamper is new. The glossary update we have is hamper accuracy specifically. I think this is a really cool... so hamper accuracy, a gear special rule. When you hit with this, the monster gains a -1 accuracy token. This is neat. I wish it would have been like hamper X or hamper attribute. But I guess,
Which, I mean, it will be in the future.
Well, maybe they're not all going to be that. Maybe accuracy is when you hit. Maybe the hamper, like, toughness will be when you wound instead of when you hit.
Maybe.
So maybe there's a reason that it's not hamper X, but it would have been nice to just see hamper X or hamper attribute and then, like, attribute within parentheses. So then they all worked exactly like this. Then it would say, like, a gear special rule. When you hit with this, the monster gains X token.
-X token.
Or
-1 X token.
-1 attribute of the type token.
Yes.
But still neat. So this is really, really good. This specific one, I don't think we've seen yet. Hamper accuracy. But for example, had this been hamper evasion, a gear special rule, when you hit with this, the monster gains -1 evasion token. This would just be what cat claw arrow or clawhead arrow is.
Clawhead arrow.
Yeah, it would just be hamper evasion. So that's neat. I'm glad to see that this is a thing. I really like this, the debuffing kind of thing like this.
More gear rules that list things that have been in the past been spelled out is good.
Yeah,
cleavage, etc.
If that's how it works, right? If hamper attribute or hamper X is a thing, that'll be great. It will, but then again, it will always be tied to hits. Maybe they want some of the hampers to be tied to wounds. Maybe some they want to be tied to knockdown. We don't know.
Maybe some is where you put your dirty laundry.
That's true.
Hamper.
So let's talk about.
This goofy.
So much to talk about here. Let's talk about. Should we start with the? Should we start with the spooderlings?
Yeah, it adds spooderlings to any fight.
To any fight, but not all fights.
Yes.
It needs.
Taste has made some clarification.
Yes, I asked Taste about the Black Knight fight, right? Because the Black Knight takes place with dungeon tiles. You're not using the showdown board.
Yes, it is the Citadel board.
But it is along the board edge. But the Black Knight does not have the board edge tiles revealed at the start of the fight, so you cannot place them during setup.
Correct.
If there was an instance of which you could place them, if say, like, for some reason the whole Citadel was revealed for some reason, maybe an inverted mountain, there's something that reveals the entire Citadel, right? Who knows? It's possible. But if all the Citadel tiles were revealed, then you could place the spooderlings. It's only because they're not revealed that you can't place them.
Technically speaking, what you would have to do, right, is you would have to perfect punt this into a Squire campaign.
Well, you can't, because perfect punt is only for your next Arc campaign.
Well, you know what I mean.
Now, the other interesting thing is, the encounter board edge does have board edges. So if you bring this on a hunt with you and you trigger an encounter, you're going to add spiderlings twice. You're going to add it to the encounter, and then you're also going to add it to the showdown, which is interesting. This makes encounters a little bit more interesting, a little bit harder, because currently with Bone Eaters, you kind of just surge on their very first attack and you hope you kill them right away before they do anything. Like the first flow, you hope you kill them right away. Now with spiderlings left over, you're going to have to clean up all the spiderlings too. Spiderlings don't have any rewards currently. So for example,
no courage or anything.
Yeah. Shades give you a survival. Now,
That's from something.
in COD, maybe Spiderlings will give you a survival. Maybe they'll have their own minion card. Maybe they'll have their own
I would
toughness.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Maybe. So these can be more or less like once COD comes around and we see what happens with the Spoodlings, maybe they're more or less annoying. It's just very like variable when we see COD. What's the other thing, Jay?
Oh, well, Spiderlings share toughness with whatever you're fighting.
Correct. Spiderlings share toughness with whatever you're fighting.
So if you take this to a Gold Smoke Knight, the Spiderlings have 30 toughness.
Correct.
If you take this to Watcher, Spiderlings have toughness equal to your Lantern Gear.
Correct. So that's another interesting thing to keep in mind, that you're gonna have to kill a spider or a spiderling to get this online.
Yes.
Now,
Or like, you take this to a Dragon King 3, they don't care about those -1 toughness tokens, and Dragon King has stupid toughness.
correct. Too bad it doesn't work with Black Knight. Black Knight has low toughness because he gets his +1 toughness tokens.
It's true.
But you do have to kill a spiderling to get this online. Now, with that said, that's going to be easier. Well, again, one of the reasons why you got to clarify what it is exactly you're doing. For example, Smog Singers. Now, you couldn't use this as Smog Singers because this is a Node 2. But Smog Singers, you kind of start in the middle of the board, not on the board edge. It would be a pain to get to those spiderlings to get this online. Monsters like Frog Dog, you also start not super close to the board edge. You can get closer to the board edge, but not super close. You might have to dash to them or something.
Manhunter as well, you start in the center.
Yeah, Manhunter as well. So this can be what's the Slenderman? I think no, not Slenderman. Lion God. Lion God. You start like 4 spaces away from him, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to think about what monster you're bringing this to, because you have to kill a spiderling to get this online. Now, as Jace mentioned before we started recording, the amount of value you get out of this depends on the next attack you do after killing a spiderling. This is a slow weapon. Jay, what do we get from that great game hunter?
We get a Frenzy Potion.
Frenzy Potion, correct. There's lots of ways you could frenzy yourself.
Bitter Frenzy, Ghost Zerker, I believe.
Well, Bitter Frenzy lets you use survival actions, which will be awesome.
Yeah,
right?
sorry. The Berserker fighting art, my bad.
Yes.
You get Berserker when you get Bitter Frenzy.
Correct. There's also like the death tokens, like you were saying, Lanternism. I forget what it is. It goes Zerker, lets you frenzy yourself when you eat a token.
8 Lantern tokens to frenzy yourself.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways you can frenzy yourself outside of Frenzy Drink. We were just kind of memeing it up there, that the fact that the dead great game hunter gives you a frenzy drink.
Maybe he died fighting a spider.
Yeah, maybe.
We've done it on stream.
Yeah. So you want to get rid of slow here, and you want to have more speed, because this is when you hit. So it's like the bows and arrows, right?
Yeah, not necessarily even frenzy. This also works very well with King Gloves because they make an extra attack roll.
Correct.
This works with the Death Die because it gives you an extra attack roll.
Correct.
This also works with Combo Master and the Legendary Lungs fighting arts.
Correct.
And that's about the extent that I can think of.
Red Saviors.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yes, Red Saviors.
So,
also Purple Saviors, because they can ignore slow.
That's true. They can. So Purple Saviors too. Yeah. So again, not just about ignoring slow, but it helps. And then you probably want to, get the accuracy as low as possible to make sure you do hit. So,
Mind Strength is not awful. For level 3s, it's a bit low, but it's not awful.
Yeah, not awful. You'll probably kill the spiderling with 9 strength. Not that low. I mean, when with the exception of the crazy ones like you were mentioning, the Gold Smoke Knight and stuff, which I'm not saying is crazy. This is a late game weapon. If you're doing this build, you definitely want to keep in mind.
Gold Smoke Knight within the next 5
to
6 years.
you might forget that, and you might just keep it in your gear and then go fight Gold Smoke Knight and be like, oh, now I can't kill the spiderlings.
Like a higher level Dung Beetle Knight or whatever.
Yeah. So let's say around 20. Let's say a level 3, 18 to 20 is fair for a quarry or something.
Yeah.
You're halfway there with the 9. You're probably going to be survival of the fittest, stuff like that. So you're probably your survivors by the time you're killing level 3s and using this. Your survivors should probably have 3 or 4 base strength. So,
at least your good survivors can probably have upwards of like 7.
Yeah. So the 9 strength, it's going to get you to the 50-50 range pretty much consistently, where you're wounding 50% of the time.
It's also a spear, which is also it's just a nice weapon class. Yeah. It's got reach. It's just a good weapon all around.
Yeah, it's a really good weapon. It's really interesting with the fact that this adds spiderlings to the board.
It really feels like a continuation of the same design philosophy as Paleon last week, where it rewards fighting the actual monster. Because obviously, if you take this to a spider fight, that thing spawns spiderlings.
Yep.
So you can just shove this thing's accuracy to 10 plus.
Oh yeah.
And then do it with Wrath or something.
Oh yeah. And
there's some shenanigans you can do with this.
Yeah.
But like on the flip side, the spiderlings that you're adding are now super dangerous because you're fighting a spider level 3.
Correct. And you
also know that in COD, spiderlings will get mutated and stuff from synergies.
Yeah, like I said, these things could be more or less annoying in COD. So, and again, really what you want to do is hamper accuracy. Really, this is another situation where you might not even want this to be your main weapon. I don't know why the IRs are like this, but it seems that sometimes you might not even want this to be your main weapon. This was a little bit better than the Tachyon no Dachi and the...
where you never attack with it.
Yeah. But this one you might just, like an arrow, right? Like, you might just use this as an arrow, because it's only when you hit. You don't even need to wound. Maybe you just want to get this person to kill a spiderling, get it online, then they just run in to try to hamper and get accuracy.
Yeah, 1 or 2 hampers.
1 or 2...
and then swap to your Lantern Glaive or whatever.
Yes, because why? Why only 1 or 2 hampers? Well, I go 2 or 3. 2 or 3 hampers.
Well... I'm not sure what you're trying to get at, actually.
Well, 2 or 3 minus accuracy tokens is enough.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
In most cases, right? Because when you're fighting level 3s, you probably have, like...
You've got evasion.
Yeah, your tank is probably going to have 3 or 4 evasion plus block and dodge at this point in the stage of the game when you're killing level 3s. You're probably going to have...
Ideally, like, hypersensitivity, etc., etc.
Yeah, and then most monsters hit on a 2+, right? Some have a basic attack that's a 3+, but most are 2+. So 2+ plus your 4 or 5 evasion that you already have, that's putting the monster at hitting on a 6 or a 7 already. Now you dump 2 accuracy tokens on a 6 or 7, that puts it at a 9 or 10. You can't go higher than that because they're always going to hit on a 10.
Yes.
So, you're 100% correct. You only need to drop... If you can drop 2 or 3 reliably, it's pretty much donezo. Your tank's not going to get hit anymore.
You might even just want to put it on your scout.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what the scout is doing at this time. At level 3, they might not have the grid space, because remember you only have 4, and you're definitely taking Scout Lantern. 100% taking Scout Lantern, because there's almost no risk of Scout Lantern anymore. The risk of Scout Lantern is to smog. You're using Spooter here. Maybe in the future, Spooter also gets vibration damage. Not out of the realm of possibility. I could totally see Spooter getting vibration damage.
Yeah, maybe, because it, like, chitters and stuff.
Yeah, it chitters and vibrates, and, like, that's what makes it supposed to be invisible, but...
Yeah, and it communicates with its spiderlings that way, yep.
Yeah, so I could totally see that. But really, yeah, you're always going to have Scout Lantern. It's only susceptible because it's fragile, so... and then you're probably always going to have one of the knives, and you're probably always going to have the Scav Kit or Cloak. So it's really hard to get things into... As we were same time we talk about with Payloon, it's really hard to get stuff into a Scout Grid.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You might just use this as a Scout Grid. Well, I don't know. Scout would be difficult. I guess if you're a brave boy and you don't worry about rolling bad like we roll bad. I always worry about rolling bad.
That's true.
But remember, your Scout's going to also have to fight that Spooterling.
Yes.
And
You know, I think Johnny the Scout can handle one spiderling.
well, I was gonna say, and more importantly, so chase it down because he's only got 3 movement.
Yeah, you know. Give him some dragon boots or something.
But yeah, all in all, these 2 releases are really good, I would say.
Yeah, solid month. The mole, we didn't talk about mole much, but he's a really cool mini.
He is really cool. There's a chance you might be able to grab some by the time this video goes up. Maybe.
But with all this positivity, brah, are you gonna buy or fry this month?
These are totally worth buying. Like, I would have no regret in buying this IR. If you really like Spooter, this is the first one. It's the first IR for Spooter. There is no real if you're buying this right away in the shop, this is good. There's no reason to really wait. But
I don't think that Bravado will get a white box release. I'll be real. So
I think so.
It's fine to pick it up as is.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's you could do this in white box. I think you could, the turnaround time on this beta, I think, would be really quick, as we talked about. I think you could almost have shipped it like
as a white box,
as is. So I get that it's a resin and not in plastic, so that's why it's not a white box. I mean, I get that, but
like some of the betas just don't get white box releases. I think this will be one of those.
Yeah, maybe. I think, which is a shame because it's a cool sculpt.
Yeah, it's a very old sculpt from like back when the game was an RPG.
Yeah, the Great Game Hunters, yeah, they have that old fancy feel. I think this sculpt is newer though.
No, well, the illustrations from 2007.
Yes, that's correct. I guess maybe it just took long to sculpt because he does look to be the right scale now.
True. Yeah, it's probably just a new sculpt of old art.
Yeah.
But...
So very cool. I think there's almost, if you really want these, buying them now, there's no shame in that. I don't think so. I might even pick this one up at Gen Con for me personally, because Gen Con's only like a month away from now. Well, a month and 20 days. Yeah. So that's just a me thing. If you're going to Gen Con, totally buy this at Gen Con. I don't think you need to wait for this, especially if Spooter is one of your favorites. Speaking of waiting, we did see that the bundles, the IR bundles, are not being divided up yearly. So that's something to consider too when you make your purchase. If you're waiting, thinking that they'll do a yearly Black Friday bundle,
it's not necessarily guaranteed.
Not necessarily guaranteed. The last 3 have been bundled with the last year's bundle. So the Tachyon no Dachi, Peiloon, and now the Partisan.
Uh-huh.
So that's something to consider too. Other than that, really cool. We got one more month of releases for June. Then it will be the big Gen Con releases, which will be huge.
Yeah, June's usually fairly light because of Gen Con.
Yes. We'll probably get a tease for Gen Con at the end of June. And then probably not... Yeah, there probably won't even be a sale in July, I don't think. There might be, there might not be. It's a tricky one because Gen Con is literally July 30th.
It's early this year.
Early. So I think July sale will technically be the Gen Con sale. Maybe there won't even be a July sale because it will just be the Gen Con releases and they'll release them again in August.
Get smashed together.
Yeah, they'll just go together. So I think we have one more of these before Gen Con. Moving fast. So thank you so much for joining me, Jay.
Thanks for having me as always.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.